Hello. If you're watching this video, you're about to become an expert at beginner level Cakewalk operation. This video is long-winded with a lot of dry info, so you can hover over the timeline at the bottom of the screen to select which chapter you want. First off, let's look at the hardware. This is my device. The Scarlet is a lot like it. This one uses Firewire, where the Scarlet uses USB 3.0. So this thing has, all the inputs in the front, but it also has some dedicated outputs in the back and a set of main outs. The Firewire ports are labeled 1 and 2, so we hook up 1 directly to the computer, and the 2 is if you want to hook up another one. You hook up, we'll connect that 2 to the other one's 1. And then you can do 4 of these, I think, but we only have a couple to mess with here, and there'll be a much longer cord in between because of the way that we have them set up to make things more convenient to run wires. It's good to have 2 points in the jam room, so you don't have to run everything to the same point. When you're hooking up more than one, you have to hook up the one with the lowest serial number first, and then the next serial number and so forth. That's just how they have to be daisy-chained. I've already labeled these two 1 and 2 right here, so this one always has to be plugged into the computer, and this one always has to be plugged into this one. It doesn't work the other way around, or at least it's not supposed to. Alright, now we're going to show you the proper way to power things up. You always want your interfaces turned on first. I don't even have my computer on yet, but my interface has been on the whole time. You can see the red light. Now when the computer turns on, that light's going to turn blue, and that should turn blue before you even put in your password and start up Windows. So this is the computer so far, and up here is where the power button is. So I'm going to press my own power button, but this is the power button you'll be pressing. Here's a shot of the actual computer starting up. You'll see a screen like this. Keep an eye on our interface. Oh, it's blinking blue. Now it's solid blue. That's what we're looking for. My startup screen's a little bit different. Now we'll go back to my computer because it has screen capture software installed, so we can see nice clear cuts of each screen. Now that things have powered up properly, we have a blue light, or 2 blue lights on our interfaces. This is the universal control that comes up on the screen. Universal control will show both interfaces and should be set to 48 kHz with a buffer size of 256 bytes. That just says that things are hooked up properly. We don't need that. So I'll make a new project, and we're just going to do an empty project for now. Here's our master. Make that red. Right-click in this area to get the drop-down menu that has the command Insert Audio Track. There's also the full details on the strip too. So this input right here is the same input as this right here. The strip on the left is the track that is currently selected, while the strip on the right is the output bus that the selected track is assigned to. Let's select our input here, and we're going to do, it shows that you can do the individual inputs or do a combination of an even and odd to make a stereo track. So you can always have 1 and 2 or 1 and 2. 3 or 4 or 3 and 4, and so forth. We're going to choose 3 and 4 and plug the keyboard into that. You can rename the track. Keys. Alright, 3 and 4 is the input we're using. We'll plug the keyboard right into 3 and 4 now. You can see the keyboard on the interface, but it's not here because we're still in playback mode. We're going to arm a track, and once you arm a track for recording, it's ready to record once you hit the record button, but also you can see your levels. You're like, there's my piano. But you can't hear it yet. That's because you're not wasting processor capacity on recreating the sound. And in order to do that, you have to hit this button right here, and then you'll hear it. And the reason why we leave that off is we don't do anything with the outputs from the drums when we're doing a recording, so we don't need to waste any processor space reproducing that sound. We'll reproduce the guitars, the vocals, the keyboards, because we use them in the PA. So even though I'm plugged in the front here, I can choose any output on either interface to go to the PA. For example, the keyboards are connected to this interface under the screen. The assigned output for the keyboard track is on the other interface located on top of the PA. 3-foot long 1/4-inch phone jack cables are all that's needed to get the proper instruments routed to the PA. You can choose any one of those outputs in the back of the Firestudio there. So we can see that there's, looks like 5 options. They're all stereo options. You have to choose 2 tracks at once when it comes to the output, but not necessarily, and I'll show you how that works. So here is, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 listed, and this 9 and 10 is the SPDIF output. That's the digital output, so there's 2 channels there. The thing about these channels, the output channels, is odd is always left and even is always right. So channel 5 and 6, 5 is a left channel, 6 is a right channel when it comes to the outputs. So if you wanted to send something to channel 6 exclusively without hitting 5, you would choose 5 and 6, and now you're on 5 and 6, and you would output it all the way to the right, and now it's only on channel 6. This will make more sense when we look at some of the templates that I made for the for the live jam room. But that's how that works, and like I said, we can listen, and then metronome is always on record mode. That's this button right here. Always shut that thing off, because we're almost never recording to a metronome, so don't need that. But once you have a track armed, then you can hit record and record stuff. And this is full stereo. It recorded it, but I couldn't hear it because I was on some random output. 1 and 2 stereo is usually the main output. There it is. Not bad for not being able to hear it. Delete that, and we'll show you track templates. So we right-click here, and we can insert from a track template. And there's a few I've been using, but this one right here will be the most familiar one. Boom. There's a bunch of tracks already ready to go. The mixing console is located under the Views menu as Console View. The mixer is integrated in the mosaic of windows, but you can grab this tab at the bottom left corner and drag the mixer into its own window. The right side of the mixer has the output buses. By default, it has Master, Metronome, and Preview. I added one called Drums. One thing this allows me to have is a single volume control for an already mixed drum kit. Since we want to route some of these tracks to the PA for monitoring, we can see some of these tracks are panned all the way to the left and all the way to the right. That shows us that they are being sent to a single output. Also note that the input echo button is illuminated on the tracks that are being sent out to the PA. The proper outputs are usually set in the template as well. Now the problem we were having with delayed vocals is because there was too much stuff taking up processor speed, and the EQs and the effects are that. So we want to make sure all of this stuff is off. Disabling each EQ by hitting this little power button will free up processor capacity and reduce delays in the monitor channels, like the vocals for instance. The EQ is there to be applied to a raw vocal track in playback mode. Applying it beforehand will only conflict with the EQ settings on the PA, making the sound kind of hollow, so we don't want it on anyway. You can't save the master bus in a template, so I create this extra track called Master Effects, so I can save the effects used on the master bus. After importing, I copy the effects in the correct order over to the actual master, then I delete that Master Effects track. So when you're ready for some playback, now we've got to go through and set all these outputs to master. Then we shut off all these things and these things, and now we're ready to play. This looks so nice and clean because I've already edited all this stuff together, so all the vocal tracks are already chopped up.
Black clouds hanging round, we'll never see the sun come out.
The output of each track can be assigned to any bus or be routed to an external output directly. The buses can be routed to an external output, that's why we can hear things that are routed to the master. You can export your work. This is a whole night of us playing, so this just kind of goes on. And I usually export the whole thing and then cut it up after that. But say we just wanted to choose one song, you can right-click and drag a little select tool, and you can actually select a section and hit the export button here. And export audio. And this allows you to export audio. Right now it's in WAV format. We can do MP3, way smaller. You still get to choose what type of rendering you want. 48 kilohertz. And you put your name here. Call this Willy Wonka. And it will export the audio file as an MP3. 2-track, ready to go. You just hit export right here. So we can see all the effects I'm using. You just right click and you can insert audio effects. There's a whole list of effects and different types of effects and all that stuff. Just to see what we're using here. The guitar has some reverb. Very simple reverb effects. It's all kind of visual. And then EQing is fun too. You can open it up and you can adjust these knobs here, or you can grab these things and adjust things here as well, or you can double click, get this whole thing. And the nice thing is it actually gives you a waveform when it's playing. Alright, that's how we do that. Now we shut down. Stopping our screen capture. There you go. Stopping our side camera. Stopping the main camera.